93, 93, 93. This is Aman Asha Renew from AshaRenew.com. Peace. What's up, Mary? Today, I will be speaking on ley lines and earth chakras. So I'm going to give it about 60 seconds and jump right into it. The thing we must understand about ley lines and the earth chakras, this is what explains to you why you feel different in different cities and why we are not who we think we are. We are who we are based on our location. So let me go into the further science into this because there's a whole field of astrology dedicated to this called locational astrology, again, which is one of the lesser known schools of astrology. However, the basis of that school of astrology is based upon the earth chakras and based upon the ley lines of the planet. So for those who may not know what a ley line is or a earth chakra, peace, Anthony. Ley lines are basically currents of energy between cities and states that hold a certain vibration. So essentially, let's just deal with, because we deal with the seven chakras, let's just say it's seven different types of ley lines that connects with the seven different inner planets or inner chakras. So based upon which ley line you fall under, it will stimulate one of your chakras or one of your planets if we're speaking about astrology, right? And that stimulation of that particular point in your chart or that point in your consciousness or that point in your body that we call chakras, that energy will become dominant due to your particular place on the planet. So for those of us who have traveled, we understand that you don't do the same thing in different cities in terms of how you feel and the type of activities you want to engage in. For example, I'll use myself as an example. Whenever I go to California, I feel very energetic. I'm essentially coming and going, coming and going, coming and going from one place to another place because it's easy to travel and get to places. You can get from downtown to North Hollywood in pretty much 30 minutes, right? So whenever I'm on the West Coast, I feel the solar charge, because California is the golden state, right? So I feel that golden aura. So it makes you bring those attributes out of yourself. However, once you hit Nevada, and Nevada is known as the silver state, right? Now that silver currency stimulates me, and when I am in the desert or when I am in Nevada, I am completely different than how I am when I am when I'm in California. Now that I'm being stimulated by the solar vibration, not the silver vibration instead of the solar vibration or the lunar vibration as opposed to the solar vibration, this is why I tend to be a lot more spiritual. I tend to be a lot more secluded. I tend to be a lot more into myself, just flowing with that lunar current and more focused on my inner world because that's what the moon represents. Because the moon rules over your fourth house, and your fourth house represents your inner world. Versus the sun rules over the fifth house, and the fifth house rules over your forms of entertainment and your forms of pleasure and creativity. So whenever you are being stimulated by the solar current, you will be a lot more creative. You will be a lot more romantic. You will have a lot more time to engage in entertainment. However, when you ride the lunar currency, you will tend to be a lot more spiritual and secluded and, just want to tend to yourself and your family and just do things that's more in-house and close-knit, right? So if we were to think that we are one way or another way, or If we are to think that we are either charged by the solar force or the lunar force, well, we will be greatly mistaken because we are charged up with the particular energy based upon our location, once again, based upon which ley line you fall under. And because this is the way energy is distributed, this goes into the earth chakras. Because if we study the earth chakras, just like the human body has the root chakra to the crown chakra, the earth's root chakra is in California, Mount Shasta, right? The earth's crown chakra is in Tibet, which is where Mount Everest is. Because Mount Shasta is a active volcano, and of course Mount Everest is not, but it is the tallest mountain in the world. Okay, so the Earth's chakra or root chakra is an active volcano. Then you have the crown, which is the tallest mountain, and people try to climb the mountains, but there's hundreds of dead bodies on Mount Everest. That's probably the part of Mount Everest that's not really talked about. There have been many people who tried to conquer Mount Everest and failed. And because they failed, their body is left preserved because the higher you go up the mountain, it becomes colder, right? So it essentially preserves your body because the temperatures are so low, it actually preserves your body. So it's a real, you know, spiritual energy because you're not going to necessarily feel anything negative. You can say nobody went to Mount Everest to lose their life, right? They went to Mount Everest to maintain their life, right? They went to Mount Everest to expand their lives. However, you don't really see too many people going to Mount Shasta because it is a active volcano. Okay, so we can see the difference between the Earth's survival mode or the survival state of the Earth than the Earth's spirituality. Okay, so we can say that the root chakra of the earth represents the earth's survival mode, and we can say the crown chakra of the earth represents the earth's spirituality. So that's why when we go to Tibet or when we study Tibetan manuscripts and works, these are some of the most spiritual people on earth, right? They are definitely living within the context of 5D. When we come to the root chakra of the planet and we are dealing with California and we're dealing with Mount Shasta, now we understand the California culture, and we know the California culture is a unique culture, right? People have always, wanted to strive to be in Hollywood or so on and so forth. So California has its own original pull, and of course, they have the stars on the ground. The Hollywood Walk of Fame, right, where the stars are on the ground, right? That's because that's the root chakra. So you have the stars on the ground. The crown chakra in Tibet, it's all about going up into the mountains. How far up can you go into the mountains, right? So if the root chakra is about preserving yourself on the ground, and the crown chakra is about ascension, basically. So you're not even trying to be, dealing with people in everyday common reality. You're trying to deal in 5D. So you can say 5D is the crown, and 4D is the root, right? Because when I say 4D, I'm talking about the subterranean planes, right? So whenever we're talking about the subterranean planes or the inner dimensions or the inner space of the earth, that is 4D. 5D is talking about ascension, astral travel, so on and so forth, where you're in your Merkaba or your chariot moving, about dimensions in that fashion, right? So that's why you can say crown chakra is more like aliens and spacecrafts and motherships and traveling between stars, versus the root chakra is more about the subterranean planes, traveling the underground tunnels, traveling the inner spaces within the earth, right? So that's the difference between 4D and 5D with the root chakra and the crown chakra, right? So the same thing that's going on within us, within our bodies, the same way we study our bodies and we study the chakras and we study our planets, the same thing is going on the earth, because it is as above, so below. So because these same dimensions are going on within us and outside of us, the more we learn about the earth, the more we are learning about ourselves, because based on where we are on the planet is going to bring out a different attribute from within us. So based on where we are on the planet, a different attribute will be dominant. So again, we are not who we think we are. You are who you are based on your location And as your location changes, different attributes will manifest from within you. So, from that understanding, this is where we begin to understand how, for example, I may be doing these videos at the same time every day, right? Around the same time, not necessarily exactly the same time, but I'm pretty much doing these videos around the same time. But even though I can look at the clock and it may say the same time every day or every morning, it is a different vibration, meaning it is a different day and it is a different hour. And if we understand planetary days and planetary hours, you know that it's a different planetary charge every hour and it's a different planetary charge every day. So even though I'm looking at the clock and I'm seeing the same numbers, the energy charge, the invisible forces, the invisible currency, what's controlling the field of what you are experiencing, that is completely different, even though I'm looking at the same time. And that is also based on where I am. So 5:30 in Las Vegas is different than 5:30 in California, even though it's the same time. They're on the same time zone, right? Pacific Coast time is the same time zone, but it is a different ley line configuration. And because it is a different ley line configuration, you will have a different result. Right? So this is why every city feels different. This is why every country feels different because it is based upon which energy or which attributes are dominant. So as we travel around the entire planet, we begin to see from the root chakra all the way up to the crown, which is true alchemy or earth alchemy. So as you travel, you begin to see why the root is a root, why the crown is a crown, why the heart is a heart, so on and so forth. And you're able to see it outside of you. So you're able to see people who live on the currency of the heart chakra. You can see people that live on the currency of the crown, who live on the currency of the root, right? Because that's essentially based upon where you are on the planet. So when we see masters of their reality, right? People who have mastered their reality or mastered that particular attribute or chakra, this is essentially why these people, become celebrities or public figures, so on and so forth, because these become the pillars of study. This is how you master this particular force based upon your location. This is why what's going to get you to the top in New York is not the same as California. You can't use the same tactics that will work in California in New York. Not because the tactics are valid or invalid. You have to consider your location. They even say that in real estate. It's all location is, the most important thing that you can consider. Location, 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 right? We've heard this before, but again, we don't necessarily take into consideration the spiritual components. Like we may take into consideration, okay, maybe you will want, to do business downtown where you have a lot of crowd versus somewhere where it's not a lot of walking, a lot of people coming in and out. We understand the surface level of business and location, but this is more so describing to you why you may be successful in one city and not successful in another city. So this is explaining to you. So for anybody who feel like they are not in a position of life that they feel they should be in, that they have the capabilities to put themselves in, but it's not necessarily playing out on a external level, it may not necessarily be you that's the issue. It may be the location, right? Yeah, I think I got kicked off. They just completely shut down the live stream. So I'm gonna end this. Y'all get the message. Definitely check out.